Today, we're digging into one of the most persistent puzzles of our time, the whole modern UFO phenomenon. We're going to go on a journey from these strange sightings in the sky all the way to the incredible stories they kick off down here on the ground.
So let's just jump right in with the one question that really drives this whole thing. Are we actually being visited? It's the question, right? It's captivated us for decades, and it's led to some pretty fierce debates, official government deep dives, and just a whole universe of speculation.
And it really is a persistent mystery. I mean, for more than 70 years now, these reports of, well, what they now call UAPs, or unidentified aerial phenomenon, they've just been a constant part of our modern world. So, what are we really talking about when we talk about UFOs? Okay, to get a sense of the scale here, just look at this number. During what's known as the Belgian UFO wave, on one single night, an estimated 13,500 people saw something they couldn't explain. And get this, over 2,000 of them actually filed detailed written statements. This wasn't just some vague light. This was a massive shared event. And it's just one of thousands like it around the world. So here's the key takeaway. This isn't just campfire stories. The whole phenomenon is fueled by everything from these massive eyewitness events to confusing radar blips to actual official government documents that basically admit, yeah, there are some things up there we just can't identify. It's a puzzle that, no matter how many times people try to dismiss it, it just refuses to go away. And that persistence, it leads us straight into the real core of the issue, this fundamental battle over what we even count as evidence. This is where two completely different worlds just slam into each other. See, on one side, you've got the strict standard of scientific skepticism. It needs hard physical proof, a chunk of metal, a crystal clear photo you can verify, something you can repeat in a lab. But on the other side, you have the standard of experiential belief. And the people over here argue that, look, when you have thousands of credible witnesses, we're talking pilots, military officers, plus radar data, plus consistent patterns reported for decades, that has to mean something, right? This quote from astrophysicist Ilko van Kampen, it just perfectly nails the skeptical position. He's making a really sharp point. For a scientist, a personal story is just that, a story. It's data about what a person experienced, but that's not necessarily data about what actually happened. But then you immediately get this powerful counter-argument, which this online commenter Simon puts really well. At what point does the sheer volume of all this stuff, the stories, the declassified files, the radar pings, at what point does that become its own kind of proof? How many smart, credible people have to see the same thing before we just agree that the phenomenon itself is real, even if we have no idea what it is? And right here, this is the data that keeps the whole debate running. So official studies, yeah, they can explain most sightings, around 78%, as something totally normal. Weather balloons, planes, meteors. But that leaves this stubborn slice of the pie, about 22%, that remains officially unexplained. And that 22%, well, that's the space where this entire fascinating conversation lives and breathes. So when you have a mystery this big and it hangs around for this long without a clear, scientific aha moment, something else starts to happen. The phenomenon starts to change. It fills that void of the unknown by turning into mythology. Exactly. I mean, think about it. You've got this genuine mystery. Governments even admit it's there, but there's no smoking gun. No conclusive proof. You have this huge gap in what we know, so what rushes in to fill that void? We do. The human mind just hates a vacuum. We are hardwired to look for patterns and to tell stories. So when there aren't any hard facts, we start connecting the dots ourselves with our own interpretations and speculations. We build these huge narratives to make sense of it all, turning some weird lights in the sky into something way, way bigger. And some people, like this commenter Fisyevkin, who's referencing the famous psychologist Carl Jung, they offer this really fascinating third option. What if the answer isn't just a simple, it's aliens or it's nothing? What if the whole phenomenon is a kind of psychological projection, like a modern version of ancient myth and archetypes bubbling up from our shared collective unconscious? A kind of new folklore, literally being born right in front of us.
And that folklore, man, has it gotten incredibly detailed and complex. That gap in our knowledge has been filled with what you could call a bestiary. A whole who's who of supposed visitors from other worlds.
Just look at how specific this lore gets. You've got the classic Greys, right? The small, bug-eyed guys from all the abduction stories, supposedly messing with our DNA. Then there are the reptilians, these sinister, tall, scaly beings who are supposedly shapeshifters secretly controlling human society. And then on the other end, you've got the Nordics, these tall, human-looking beings who are supposedly here to help us reach enlightenment. And what's wild is that this cast of characters isn't set in stone. It actually evolves with the times. The Greys really blew up after the Roswell story in the 40s. The peaceful, human-like Nordics and Venusians, they were a big deal in the 1950s contactee movement. And the reptilians, well, they became way more popular recently, thanks mostly to the rise of internet conspiracy culture. The mythology literally changes to reflect our hopes and our fears.
So what we're really looking at is a phenomenon you could call crowdsourced lore. It's like a shared fictional universe, but one that's built by millions of people online. It mashes up real eyewitness reports, wild speculation, and bits of pop culture into this massive, constantly growing story. It's a living, breathing, modern myth.
All right, so we've gone from the sighting to the fight over evidence to this incredible mythology. And that brings us to the final and maybe the most important question. What does all of this really tell us about, well, us?
You know, this comment from a Reddit user talking about how an AI came up with this list of alien types is just so on point. It explains the whole process perfectly. This lore, this list of visitors, it exists because it's popular and it gets repeated over and over and over online. It's really just a mirror reflecting our own collective stories back at us, not necessarily a window looking out into another world.
And this brings us to this really powerful idea from the physicist Richard Feynman. He suggests that maybe the most logical explanation here isn't about some unknown alien technology, but about the known and sometimes irrational quirks of our own human minds. You know, our need to see patterns, our love of a good story, and our tendency to see something miraculous in something that might just be mundane. So in the end, we're kind of back where we started, but maybe we're looking in a different direction. The UFO phenomenon is absolutely real. The reports are real, the experiences people have are real, and the questions are real. But maybe the ultimate story here isn't about them. Maybe it's about us. Maybe it's about our own search for meaning, our deep-seated relationship with the great unknown, and our incredible, unstoppable need to tell stories to make sense of a universe that is so often just stubbornly silent. Thanks for watching.